Om Padmanabhaya Namah. Namaste to all Hindu devotees. We, the trustees of People for Dharma and the devotees of Sri Padmanabha Swami, are related at the historic verdict in relation to Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple by a bench of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, comprising Justice U.U. Lalit and Justice Indu Malhotra. The verdict was delivered against the judgment of the Kerala High Court, wherein the Kerala High Court had stated that the head of the Travancore royal family and his successors had no right to control or manage the affairs of the temple. Now, further to that, the Kerala High Court also directed the state government of Kerala to constitute a trust to take over the control of the temple, its assets and management. Such a trust was empowered to even open the walls of the, that is the Kallaras of the temple, and create a museum and exhibit all the treasures of the temple for the public devotees and tourists who are visiting the temple. And that also on a payment basis within the temple premises itself. So effectively, through its judgment, the Kerala High Court had not only deprived the Travancore royal family and the devotees of Lord Padmanabha their right to secure and manage and preserve the sanctity of the temple, but also directed commercializing the property of the deity by putting on public display the sacred treasures of the temple for the general public. It is in the above backdrop that the historic verdict of the Honorable Supreme Court must be understood and appreciated. Now, let me tell you the salient features or the outcome of the verdict of July 13, 2020. The court had actually realized the special relationship between the Travancore royal family and the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple. If we remember, in the Kerala High Court verdict, it was told that there is no relationship between the Travancore royal family and the temple. And their judgment was based on the 26th Amendment of 1971. The 26th Amendment had abolished all privy and royal titles, but of royal families. But what we have established here is that there is a relationship between the Travancore royal family and the temple. And it is not only protected by the covenant signed by the rulers of Travancore and the Indian Union, but it is also protected by the tradition and religious practice of the temple. Therefore, 26th Amendment, according to Supreme Court verdict, has no bearing whatsoever with the rights and relationship of Travancore royal family and the temple. The amendment of 26th Amendment was there to kill the titles which were given by the British Crown. That is like the Rai Bahadur or Nawab, etc. But relationship of Travancore royal family and temple was much before the British came into India. So it has nothing to do with the titles. It is more a tradition. Then the Supreme Court further recognized that the covenant forms the basis of sections of the Travancore Cochin Hindu Religious Institution Act of 1950, which specifically deals with the Padmanabha Swami temple. And the objective of providing a specific chapter for the temple was to ensure that the rights guaranteed in the covenant are protected to the successors of the ruler, even after India transitioned to a republic. The court recognized that this was precisely the reason why the state government of Kerala had never diluted the position or rights of the Travancore royal family, even after the death of Sri Chitra Tirunal Balarama Varma in 1991. Apparently, he is the one who signed the covenant as ruler of Travancore in 1949. The Supreme Court then set aside the judgment of Kerala High Court and laid down a new administration structure for this temple, largely based on the suggestions placed before the court by the head of the Travancore royal family himself. Let us now see how the structure has been laid down by the Supreme Court. Decisions relating to all policy matters of the temple shall be taken by the ruler or the Maharaja or the head of the Travancore royal family, who shall take advice from the advisory committee. This advisory committee consists of 3 members. Now, A second committee also will be formed, which is called the Administration Committee, and it will be consisting of 5 members, and they shall exercise the powers of administration of the temple. This will be subject to control and supervision of the ruler once again. The 5-member administration committee will consist of a district judge of Travancore, 1 member of nominated by the ruler, 1 member nominated by the state government of Kerala, 1 member by the Union Ministry of Culture, by the central government, and of course the chief tantri of the temple. But most importantly, the administration committee shall not take any decision on certain matters of policy unless they obtain the approval of the ruler. Mind you, it is not only consultation but the approval of the ruler. So what are these policy matters? Any expenditure exceeding rupees 15 lakhs per month, any one-time expense of rupees 1 crore, any major renovation or expansion of the temple, any changes in standard operating procedures of the temple administration, then any fundamental changes in the character of the temple that would affect the religious sentiments of its devotees. Then also they have mentioned that all members of both the administration and the advisory committee shall be Hindus. With this, we see that the Supreme Court has restored the position of the head of the Travancore royal family as the she-bait of the temple, and under the supervision of the ruler, both the committees will function. Then in paragraph 116 of the judgment, the court has spelled out detailed directions to preserve the religious practices of the temple, that is to recover property of temple from encroachers and to ensure funds of the temple are spent on religious and charitable purposes. Most critically, the decision of opening Kallara B has been left to the advisory committee since it's a matter of policy and tradition. This advisory committee under the section 20 of the TCHRI Act is meant to advise the ruler, which marks the ruler is the last word on such matters. Therefore, notwithstanding the presence of a nominee of Union government, a nominee of Kerala state government, or a district judge in the 5-member administration committee and a retired High Court judge in the 3-member advisory committee, the overall control on all issues, minor or major, has been kept under the trust of the ruler. Another point which we believe that People for Dharma believes is that the annuity payable to the temple is in lieu of lands taken over by the state government. It must be increased to bring it in par with the current market value and must be revised periodically. And further to this, the amount currently being paid to temple under Article 290A must also be increased. Why? Because the temple has been attracting a lot more tourists and it is exposed to security threats. And of course, this is owing to the hype of temple treasure by the government themselves. Now, we at People for Dharma clearly wanted no state and central government interference ideally. And we understand that this is not the perfect template for temple autonomy, but we welcome the Supreme Court verdict in the hope that it will, definitely look into the temporal and spiritual concerns of the devotees of Lord Padmanabha. As always, People for Dharma will remain vigilant to prevent any entrenchment by the state henceforth in the affairs of the abode of Lord Padmanabha. We thank our legal team, Advocate Shri J. Sai Deepak, who was our arguing counsel, Advocate Shri Suvidat Sundaram, our advocate on record, the Chief Tantri of Padmanabha Swami Temple, and Shri M.V. Soundarajan of Temple Protection Movement. We thank all of them for their unrelenting, committed and effective representation in the court. We also thank the Indic Collective Trust for all the research support provided during the course of the matter. Above all, we thank Lord Padmanabha for giving us all this opportunity to contribute to his cause, the cause of Dharma. Namaste.